Hi guys, and welcome to another 7-minute lecture. We haven't dived into fiction in over a week, so that's what we'll be doing today. I was originally thinking of covering another book, but I figured I might as well focus on a movie since I've only done one of those before. So we're going to be looking at something that ranks as one of my favorite movies as well. The Life of Brian. Monty Python's Life of Brian is one of the funniest and smartest movies ever made. It's a great example of how humor can be used to explore really deep themes and issues. Some of the humor might be a little too offensive by today's standards, but it also exists as a tribute to the type of zany comedy that characterizes many of the best movies from the 70s and 80s, particularly humorous movies. Obviously, I can't dive into the movie without providing a little bit of context about Monty Python itself, which I'm sure, as you all know, is probably the greatest comedy troupe that ever existed. They were known for their surreal humor and inventive skits. In the 70s, they had a famous television show called Monty Python's Flying Circus, which really sort of changed the structure of comedy. If you looked at the basic structure of comedy skits at the time, they were all based on punchlines, on having a scenario and ending it with some punchline. These guys changed all that, and some of their skits would even just end abruptly. They were masters of breaking the fourth wall and sort of they would have these weird skits where the characters themselves would become self-aware. There's a famous skit I love involving the mafia trying to extort a military base, where one of the characters in the middle of the skit just gets up and is like, no, this is too silly, and just ends it and walks away. So they're really inventive in terms of the format and the tone of comedy. Monty Python's first proper movie was Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is actually the funniest movie ever made. I was torn between making a video about that or this, but I decided Life of Brian was a better start, because while the Holy Grail is this non-stop bombardment of surreal humor and it has a lot of laugh out loud moments in it, the Life of Brian is a much more conventional story. Well, conventional by Monty Python standards anyway. It's got a somewhat proper, coherent story which isn't just a collection of skits. So the premise is very simple. The story is set in Jerusalem, the Roman Empire is in charge, and even Jesus himself is still alive and one of the many prophets who's being hailed as the Messiah. And our protagonist, Brian, through a series of hilarious errors, is mistaken by a large group of people to be the Messiah as well. And in a weird way, I don't want to give away the story entirely to those who haven't seen the movie, but in a weird way, his life does parallel that of Jesus. The movie takes a lot of digs at Christianity and was extremely controversial at the time. It was even banned in certain parts of Europe when it was released, which in a way is weird because compared to the type of English language popular comedy that came out just 20 years later, like South Park for instance, all of this seems really tame in comparison. I don't think the movie insults Christianity so much as it raises a lot of funny observations and it mocks the inherent contradiction in all religions. But over the years, this has also turned into one of the biggest weaknesses of the film, in the sense that this religious angle often hijacks the discussion about the movie and it gives people the impression that it's all about making fun of religion, which really isn't the case. There are so many issues that are still relevant today which the movie makes fun of, which doesn't really have anything to do with religion. So I needed to mention those as well. First, of course, is the idea of both colonialism and anti-colonialism. Those of you who have seen my video on colonialism might remember that I quoted the famous "What have the Romans ever done for us" joke, which is so silly and funny and yet so deep. That one joke exposes anti-colonial rhetoric for what it usually is, which is just badly thought out sloganeering that's a lot more emotional than it is logical. But that doesn't mean that the movie doesn't make fun of colonialism either. The Roman Empire is mocked relentlessly throughout the movie. Most of the really incompetent and buffoonish characters in the film are all public officials of the Roman Empire, whether it's Michael Palin with his speech impediments, or Terry Gilliam as the weird torturer, or John Cleese as the guard who's more interested in correcting the Latin syntax and grammar of the rebels than the fact that they've just vandalized the walls with anti-Roman graffiti. In fact, to be honest, someone from ancient Rome would find this movie far more offensive than any Christian. It takes great pot shots at politics, especially sort of party politics, where you have all these groups standing for the same thing, but they hate each other. The People's Front of Judea hate the Judean People's Front, which I think is something that most people from the developing world can empathize with to this day, where most of our countries are oversaturated with political parties that all have the same ideology and in some cases nearly identical names, who are just in politics for their own self-interest and pretend they're different from the others, when in reality they're all the same rabble. It takes great pot shots at how revolutionaries are usually all talk and no action. There's a great scene towards the end where Brian's friends, who are a revolutionary group, find out he's in trouble. And instead of just going down there and saving him, they're like, we need to take immediate action and have a meeting instead about why they need to act quickly, instead of actually just acting quickly. I can go on and on, but there are only 7 minutes, so I need to be brief. It mocks gender fluidity a little bit, which might perhaps not be appreciated in some modern circles where a certain male character wants to become a female. There's a great stoning sequence which makes fun of blasphemy and shows what a tricky crime blasphemy actually is, because the guy executing another for blasphemy accidentally commits it himself. The same scene also has an added twist of women not being allowed to attend executions, so they're all wearing beards pretending to be men. And of course, the twist on the twist is that the real life characters playing those women are actually men. So it's comedy on so many levels that 7 minutes is nothing. I'll have to stop here before I ramble too much. Tell me what you think of the movie, because I'm pretty sure that many of my subscribers are fans as well. So I'm looking forward to your comments. If you like content like this, please don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you, take care, and I'll see you soon.